Every desert has a unique characteristic, and here in the Sonoran Desert, it's a large tree cacti. And here it's a saguaro cacti. A little further south, it's a cardon, a much larger cactus than the saguaro. And all of these cacti originally grew in forests that were usually up about as high as the first limbs of the cacti. And the saguaro can't continue to exist without a forest around its feet. It's because the young cactus can't exist in open deserts such as we see around us. It has to have shade. Like vast areas of America, this is part of the Great Dust Bowl of the 1930s, when most of the soil blew away. Between 1930 and 1935, Franklin Roosevelt had 3 million Americans out with supervisors and engineers repairing America. And it's first time in American history and the last time. It's also one of the very rare times in the history of the world that anybody in charge of a country has put the people of the country to work to repair the damage. They built hundreds of miles of earth banks which held up the runoff water long enough to settle out the silt behind them and for some water to soak into the ground. And this is called swaling. And these swales were made by horses and scoops and men. And today we have bulldozers, but we don't do this repair work on country. It's very rich in the swales, both the soils and the trees. Now we'll go down and have a closer look at that. Yeah, in the swale there's a green cover of herbaceous material. It covers up all the weeds and it makes a sort of a sandwich of weeds and silt that builds up slowly. This is about 60 years old. These were built by engineers for purely physical reasons to stop the gully erosion extending and occurring. But nature's taken it over, and we could have planted it with pomegranates, fig. You know, look in the soils of these swales. They're moist. They're pretty rich with organic material and they've got a good silt in them. And you just, today, could plant them with seeds that will wait for rain. So that's the sort of thing we could do right through these old swale systems. And there are thousands of miles of them in the United States. I first found these old swales in 1986, 87, and I'd been putting in hundreds of miles of swales, but I couldn't have seen the swales that I've been putting in 60 years' time. And it's just tremendous confidence that you get from finding these old structures that have never been looked at, they've never been repaired, and they've never been noticed by the population. And find they've been quietly working for 60 years without any maintenance. I think it's marvellous, fantastic, actually. They didn't make any mistakes. They did almost everything right. They had a lot of good hydrologists, good engineers, and good common sense, practical people working for them. It's a shame that modern nations can't turn all their people out to repair their country today, God.